Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming the star of a classic horror movie, one that Bob Clark made back in 72, 73, 74, and somewhere in that range, called Dead of Night, Richard Backus. Richard Backus had a very impressive stage career in New York, and he made this movie Dead of Night, and then he made lots of TV shows, continued working in theater. He eventually turned to writing daytime soap operas. After being on Ryan's Hope and stuff, he eventually started writing soap operas. And I'm having him on the show today to talk about all that stuff. He also worked with Frank Sinatra in his last big movie role, The First Deadly Sin, and I want to ask him about that as well. And I hope you all had a happy Easter during this time of quarantine. So, here is my interview with Richard Backus. Hey, Richard, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm pretty good.
Great.
Going a little bit stir crazy, but other than that, pretty good.
Great. I hope you had a happy Easter, and I thank you so much for taking the time today.
Well, my pleasure. Had a very nice Easter. Quiet, but very nice.
Yeah, same here. So, going back in time, did you gravitate toward acting early on in your childhood?
I got very interested in acting as a teenager. We had a really good drama coach at the local high school, and I got involved in acting with her.
Mm-hmm. You hadn't done before that school plays or community theater?
No. I did my first school play as a freshman in high school.
And from there,
and I played. I either played a very old man or a young man. I was the grandfather, and You Can't Take It With You, for example.
Yeah.
And Neil's in I Remember Mama.
Yeah. From there, you were like, this is it. This is what I want to do.
Well, I really loved it. Yeah, absolutely. And I discovered I was good at it, so it sort of went in that direction. After high school, I wound up getting my first professional job. It was non-equity, but I worked in a summer theater at the University of New Hampshire that summer before going off to college.
Mm-hmm. You're originally from New Hampshire?
Originally from New Hampshire, yeah.
So after high school and after New Hampshire College, you went to New York?
No, I didn't go to New Hampshire College. I did summer theater at the University of New Hampshire. Then I went to Harvard as an undergraduate. I was in the same class with John Lithgow.
Really?
and Tommy Lee Jones, for that matter. I didn't know Tommy Lee Jones, but John Lithgow was a friend of mine in college, and we did a number of acting jobs together in college.
Did you think that he was going to be successful?
I thought he had a pretty good chance. He was just really incredible and had a lot of experience, and he moved extremely well. He did a production of Tartuffe where he used his body so basically. It was just really wonderful. So it didn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just phenomenal, that guy. He's just there's no other way to put it.
Sensational career. It's really quite enviable.
Yeah. But then from there, did you go to New York?
After college, I was an English major, and I was considering going on for a PhD in English. Mm-hmm. And I got into a overseas program that took me to the University of Sussex. So I spent a year at the University of Sussex and came back after that and taught high school for 1 year and directed the drama program. This is at Manchester West High School in Manchester. And 1 year of teaching convinced me that that was not something I was good at, and I've had admiration for teachers ever since, because it's not easy. And I don't think it's gotten any easier either. But after that, I then went back to the University of New Hampshire for a second season, and then there was a little theater in Portsmouth, New Hampshire called Theater by the Sea, which had just started up, and I auditioned for them, and I wound up becoming part of the company at Theater by the Sea. So I spent a season there doing Waiting for Godot, You Can't Take It, no, Waiting for Godot, Candide, the subject was roses.
That's a good one.
Carnival, and the Apple Tree.
Wow.
And see how they run. It was a big season.
Yeah, those are some good ones there.
Yeah.
You understudied Cordelia in a production of Butterflies Are Free.
Yes. After the season at Theater by the Sea, I was asked to do the summer season at Harvard Theater, and I did a production of Our Wilderness there and got really wonderful reviews for it from Elliot Norton. And on the strength of that, I went to New York. The man who directed the summer theater at Harvard knew an agent in New York, and I went down and met with him, and he immediately sent me out on some things, and one of them was to stand by for Keir DeLay in Butterflies Are Free, and I got the job.
Yeah, wow. And do you remember how many performances you did?
I never actually replaced Keir DeLay because I arrived just as he and the original company, with the exception of Blythe Danner, was going to England to perform it there. Mm-hmm. So I actually understudied the man who replaced Keir DeLay, which was Kip Osborne. And I think I went on for him maybe 4 or 5 times.
Mm-hmm. Only 4 or 5
but
times.
I did it on tour with Gloria Swanson.
Wow.
Yes, wow, indeed. I kept saying to myself, gosh, me and Bill Holden.
Yeah.
Sunset Boulevard was one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, tell Mr. DeMille I'm ready for my close-up.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, what was she like?
She was very committed to the role. She worked very hard. I think she was a little jealous of the female, the ingenue. Mm-hmm. I think she wanted to be the ingenue. My feeling was that she played too much of the subtext. She felt the mother in the Broadway production was too cold, and I didn't see it. It was Eileen Heckert in the original production, and then Rosemary Murphy that worked with me. And you could tell how much they cared about their son, but they were tough with him. And Gloria felt they were being too tough, so she played more of the subtext. Mm-hmm. But she was a delight to work with. I had a great time with her.
Oh, that's good. I thought maybe, she would have been like a diva along the lines of Betty Davis or something.
No, she really wasn't. She was terrific. We did have one incident. We had been doing it as a proscenium piece, and then we went to, I think it was someplace in Maryland, and we did it in the round, switched it to in the round, and that went fine. But then we came back to New Jersey and switched back to the proscenium, and during the second, well, she's only in the second act, really. She arrives at the end of the first act. But during the scene with the ingenue and the stage director character, she went up. She completely forgot her lines and just sort of spaced out. And I think it was the adjustment. You do things by rote for so long that suddenly they don't sound like the right thing anymore. Mm-hmm. And they had to hide. They had to cue her. They brought the curtain down, and then they hit people on stage to cue her. But when she had the scene with me alone, I guess she was more comfortable with me or something, but she snapped back into it at that point and finished it just fine.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
You would never think a consummate professional like her would ever go blank, but wow.
Yeah, it can happen. I had a friend who worked with, I think it was Mel Ferrar.
Mm-hmm.
Mel Ferrar, I think, who was doing Macbeth. And my friend who was in the cast said he would go up in the same place night after night.
Mm-hmm.
It just became a mental block for him, and it took him, I don't know how many performances to finally get over that mental block.
Ah, that's interesting.
What happens? It does happen.
Yeah, that is interesting. So how does Dead at Night come into your life?
Well, I was doing, I did a Broadway show, and I had this agent that my friend at the Harvard Summer Theater had recommended me to, and he turned out to be one of the top agents in New York, so I was very lucky in that regard. And he sent me out on an audition for this horror film, and I went to a casting agent, and the woman, Jessica Levy, asked me to read a bit of it and asked me to look at a lamp shade. I remember she said, focus on that lampshade and focus on it with all the hatred you could possibly focus on it. So I did that, and she said, and now turn that hatred on me, and I did that. And I guess she felt very hated. I don't know. But I got cast.
Yeah, I was reading that you got selected because you had done that intense stare of hatred, and allegedly Christopher Walken read for the part too.
I've heard that. I don't know whether it's true or not.
Yeah.
But if it's true, it's a case of winning the war, winning the battle and losing the war, I guess. Because he certainly had a wonderful career, and deservedly so. He's a marvelous actor.
Oh yeah, one of the greats.
Yeah.
It took 6 hours to put that makeup on?
Some days it took about that long. Tom Savini gets a lot of credit for it, but really he was just starting in the business at that point, and he was assisting the man who wrote the script,
mm-hmm.
Alan Ormsby, and Alan really did most of the makeup.
Oh.
But Tom, that was where he really got his start, and he took off from there. But I would for the really big time makeup toward the end of the show, end of the movie. I was in, I don't know about 6 hours, but 3 or 4 hours certainly. And I discovered very quickly that the way to get through that was to zone out, and not to try to be clever and joke and talk around, because it was just endless. So I would just kind of go into a Zen state, and that got me through it more easily.
Yeah, okay, now I know, because Tom Savini, for some reason, never talks about this movie in detail. You know, he's only referenced it. And I'm surprised he didn't work with Bob again, especially on his next movie, Black Christmas. He would have been perfect for it.
Yeah, I don't know why that was. But he was, finding work elsewhere, I guess.
Yeah. How was Bob Clark as a director?
He was terrific. He was super. Very supportive. I thought he was very inventive. So I was not surprised at all that he went on to do something like Christmas Story?
Yeah, Christmas Story.
Yeah. Which is an absolutely wonderful movie. If it comes on, if I turn on the TV and it's on, I have to watch it. It's so good.
Yeah.
And it was terribly sad when he and his son were killed in that automobile accident.
Yeah, it was really bad. Yeah, he also did the Porky's movies too.
Yes.
Yeah, for a short movie, it moves along pretty fast. In those days, most movies were very slow, but this movie is pretty fast-paced and never boring.
Mm-hmm.
There
were scenes that were shot that were not included that would have slowed it down, I guess. And when we were working on it, it was either called The Night Eddie Came Home or The Night Walker. because there were scenes that they wanted to do of him walking through town at night and seeing various things. For example, one scene that we shot, he walked in front of a veterans home, and there were two blind veterans on the porch in front of a huge American flag. And they kept saying who's there, and the character didn't respond, but it was kind of, touching. The whole idea of bringing the war back home was, I thought, quite effective.
Yeah. I do think that the movie was a commentary on PTSD in combat.
That's a good question. I don't really know the answer to that. I don't know if they were calling it PTSD at that point.
I think they were calling it shell shock.
Shell shock was sort of what was World War II, I guess. Yeah. But I think it was, I don't think it was so much that as, I don't know, maybe in the background, Alan Oser had that in his mind, but I think it was more about just bringing the horror of war back to the States and forcing people to see what they created.
Yeah. And somehow this movie is PG.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I tell people, it's kind of a humorous horror movie in some ways, but if you watch it alone late at night, it's really kind of creepy.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Do you still get recognized for this movie?
I don't so much anymore, probably because I'm up in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
But occasionally, yeah. I was, surprised and delighted to have it suddenly turn up as a cult film, which I never expected, and equally thrilled when they made a really good copy of it on Blu-ray and DVD.
Mm-hmm.
Because the only copy I had ever seen, well, I'd seen it late at night on the 11 o'clock movie in New York City, but it was the Walter Reed Theater at Lincoln Center had a horror film series and showed Death Dream. And they showed it during the afternoon, and I went, and I was one of, 4 or 5 people in the theater, but it was a terrible print. It was just, all the blues had kind of faded out. It was very reddish.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really delighted when they were able to put together a really good copy of it for the DVD, Blu-ray, and disc.
Do you ever get asked to horror conventions?
People have suggested I should go, but I've never been specifically asked, so it just hasn't come up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the convention scene has just taken over horror in a tremendous way. So many people who never got asked 20, 30 years ago getting asked now, and they're doing them and making money. Yeah, it's a really good way to supplement income.
Well, if I get asked, I'll take that under advisement.
Yeah. They're a lot of fun.
The thing I get most of all is my son now does, he works for CBS in their polling department. He lives in New York.
Mm-hmm.
But he also does acting on the side off Broadway, and he's done some really wonderful performances from my point of view. But his friends are always suddenly saying, "Your dad was in Death Dream." So it's been kind of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. You did a production of Wilderness with Geraldine Fitzgerald. How was that experience?
It was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. As I said, I did it at the Harvard Summer School with a different cast, an awfully good cast as well. And then I came to New York, and when I was, it was 1974, I think, so I was 29,
mm-hmm.
and they wanted me to audition for the part at the Longworth Theater in New Haven, and I thought, I'm 29, I'm way too old for that part at this point. even though I looked very young. And I went up there and I said that to the director, and he said, well, it's Geraldine Fitzgerald and Bill Sutherland are playing your parents, and they're older than chronologically they probably should be, so it'll be fine.
Yeah.
We did it in at the Long Wharf Theater with Geraldine and Bill Sutherland and Teresa Wright. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And it was so good that it transferred to Broadway, went to the Circle in the Square Theater in New York. And it's probably the thing I'm best known for in New York.
Mm-hmm.
People, I had a person, I was out, 30 years later, and somebody came up to me and said, I really loved your performance in Our Wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, wow, that's extraordinary.
Yeah, then also Linda Hunt was in it too.
That's right.
She's brilliant.
I can remember the fellow playing Uncle Sid was feeling unhappy about his career not taking off, and he said at one point, but I shouldn't complain. Look at poor Linda Hunt. What did she ever do? And of course, she went on to win an Oscar and has had a very good career and well-deserved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Heard about 2 years ago or so, though, she had a little accident on the freeway in Los Angeles.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I think it was just a mild thing, though. I remember reading about it.
Uh-huh.
You worked with Frank Sinatra in his last big movie, The First Deadly Sin.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that had to have been one of the biggest highlights of your career.
Well, it was an interesting thing because I wound up, my career in film tended to be, I don't know what you can say on a podcast, but
anything.
I called my career playing wasp assholes. Because I would either play a defense lawyer getting off a clearly guilty person, mm-hmm. or a prosecuting attorney railroading a clearly innocent person, or a doctor refusing to treat someone because they didn't have medical coverage. Mm-hmm. In this particular thing, it was a court scene where a clearly guilty person had been arrested by Frank Sinatra character, and I was getting him off on a technicality. And the fellow who was playing the district attorney was very nervous about working with Frank Sinatra. My entire scene happened with the Frank Sinatra character just sitting in the courtroom, and then once the guy gets off, the district attorney has an argument with Frank Sinatra about, you got to do proper procedures so that we can put these guys in jail, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so I was doing my scene, and they just had someone sitting in for Frank Sinatra. But as it got closer to the scene with the district attorney, the energy in the room just began to rise. It just got incredible. And the owner of Jilly's, which was Frank's favorite hangout, showed up, and then, of course, Frank Sinatra showed up. Mm-hmm. So I hung around wanting to see how this went, and the poor guy playing the district attorney just was so frightened he couldn't remember his lines. Mm-hmm. And he was just really struggling, and finally they said, everybody out except the people who are absolutely needed, so I had to leave. And as I left, I thought, I better call my agent and say I'm never going to appear in this movie. And of course, when the movie came out, the scene was not in it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Brian G. Hutton directed. Do you remember what he was like?
I can't say that I do, really. I know he had when they were doing close-ups of me, he had the guy in the witness box say some really absurd things to get me to smile, because he wanted a kind of smug smile from the defense attorney getting him off on a technicality.
Yeah.
So he was inventive, but I don't remember a whole lot about him.
Yeah, he directed Kelly's Heroes. He's a great director for that, at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what made you turn to writing daytime soap operas?
I was having a pretty successful theater career. I seemed to go from one job to the next, doing mostly theater, occasional stints on a soap opera, something like that. And but I felt like I was sort of repeating the same roles, but not in as interesting a play. And my kids were getting old enough so that they needed to go to college. And I had done enough guest parts on soap operas to realize how fascinating they were. You know, that at that time they were doing, after school specials and primetime specials where in 90 minutes you stated a problem and then it got completely solved in 90 minutes. And what I liked about soap operas was that it was ongoing, You solve one problem and then you keep on going and seeing the aftermath and what other issues come up. And I liked that about it. I've been a big fan of Charles Dickens in college, read all of his books, so I liked that serial format. Mm-hmm. And when I was doing Death Dream in Florida, I was very excited that John Martin was in the movie, because I had just seen The Godfather. So I thought, people are going to be really excited in this little Florida town to have John Marley there. But everybody I ran into who heard I was with the film wanted to be Dr. David Stewart. Mm-hmm. And that was a character that Henderson Forsythe played on As the World Turns. And I thought, boy, soap operas have a real power to reach a lot of people. And so I decided that it would be fun to do it. I sort of pitched myself as a script writer. Mm-hmm. And a head writer I knew said actors made the best script writers anyway. And I thought I would write scripts and during the day and act at night. And I had so much fun writing the scripts that I sort of lost interest in following an acting career.
Are they hard to write?
The really hard part is for me, is being the head writer and coming up with all the stories. I head wrote briefly after Douglas Marland died suddenly. I was promoted with Juliet Packard to head writer of As the World Turns. Mm-hmm. And I have no facility for making up stories, I discovered. The people who can do that, who can just come up with new ideas all the time, I have nothing but admiration for them. That was true of Douglas Marland. It was true of Michael Malone. Mm-hmm. And but it was not something I could do. But in terms of fleshing out the storylines that they were coming up with, I found that fun to do, sometimes difficult, but for the most part, I found I was pretty good at it, and I really enjoyed it. And as an actor, I could really see how to put the words into characters' mouths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I know that they're certainly very difficult to act in. You have to memorize 50 pages of dialogue a day, and there's no second take. You have to just keep going.
Yeah, I used to say it combined the worst of stage with the worst of film. No retakes and no rehearsal.
Yeah.
And the people who do it well, like Henderson Forsythe as Dr. David Stewart, were really consummate actors, really good at what they did. Larry Brigman was on As the World Turns. He was sensational. Just some really wonderful performers, and it is extremely challenging because it's, if your storyline is hot, you're in 4 or 5 times a week with, as you say, 50 pages to learn. It's challenging.
Yeah. You were on Ryan's Hope. I have a friend who was on there, too, I think maybe around the same time, Kelly Maroney.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Are you still friends with her?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, say hi to her for me. I had her over to my apartment for dinner one time with her boyfriend at the time.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I don't doubt that. Kelly is very personable, and she loves everybody, you know. She, disappeared for a while and then came back through the convention scene.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she's out in L.A. and she's doing little movies here and there, and she does magic at the Magic Castle because her husband is a magician.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, what a small world, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she was terrific on Ryan's Hope.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, playing that,
and she did it really well.
Playing that evil character, Kimberly. Yeah.
Yes. The bad seed.
Yeah, that's exactly what she was on there.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing these days in quarantine and what have you?
People keep asking me if I'm writing.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is I'm not. I was very good at writing with a deadline. Soap operas have just relentless deadlines. You get the script on Monday, you got to turn it in on Friday. And so that forced me to buckle down and do it. But without that pressure, I haven't been doing any writing at all. But, I did little odd things up here. I did direct some shows at the church to raise money for the church. We did a production of Our Town, and we did a production of Greater Tuna, and a production an Agatha Christie play, and occasionally I would play one of the roles in it. We also did a couple of plays that I had done professionally. We did The Dining Room by A.R. Gurney, and we did Love Letters by A.R. Gurney. I had done Love Letters in New York, and had done The Dining Room in Washington at the Kennedy Center.
Mm-hmm. So you don't do any theater these days?
So I don't do any theater these days. I go to the theater. That's about it. I go to the Peterborough Players, which is about 40 minutes away, and does really wonderful work. They were very influential in getting me interested in theater, in that the first time I went to Peterborough Players, they have a resident company, so you see the same people doing different roles. And that, yes, to me, was magical, to see somebody playing one role one week and a totally different role the next week. And I thought, boy, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And part of the reason I left acting to go into writing for soap operas is because I felt like I was playing the same role from play to play.
Yeah.
Similar roles, at least, and I kind of lost interest.
The wasp asshole.
Yeah. Yep.
Have you ever thought about writing a memoir?
Yes, I have. And I keep thinking now's the time to do it. I got a lot of time on my hands and can't go and do anything.
Yeah.
But whether I will actually sit down and do it, I don't know. I watched a documentary a couple of nights ago called The Best Worst Thing That Ever Happened. It was about the making of the Broadway musical Merrily We Roll Along. And what happened to it crashed and burned. It was the one Stephen Sondheim piece that really was not well received, although it's had an afterlife that's quite wonderful. But it was a documentary done by one of the actors in it who's since become a director, Lonnie Price, and he followed up with all the people and asked them what they were doing now and how the crash of that show had affected them. And it was very interesting. It made me think about begin writing a memoir.
I've been trying to get in touch with Lonnie Price for a long time because I liked him.
Oh, really?
I liked him in this one movie he did back in the mid-'80s, and I don't see him on social media that much.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I will get in touch with him. We'll see and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think you have a good story there for a memoir. A nice little journeyman actor story.
Yeah. I feel like I ought to try to do it, even if it's only just for my kids to read, to know some of what was going on. have a better feel for it. They were old enough to remember me in a few things, but most of my career I occurred when they were too young to be really interested in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Richard, yeah.
Fill them in on my checkered past.
Well, Richard, I thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story with me. And I hope you write that memoir and you stay safe and you have a great day.
You too, and thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Richard Backus. Ain't he a cool dude? I love journeyman actors. I heart journeyman actors. Great guy, great stories. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes.